If I ever get a bottle of Pappy 23, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give you a Louisville Slugger, and I'm going to throw it at you, and you have to smash it.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to throw my bat, and I'm going to grab the bottle and take off.
Grab the bottle? Welcome back to Arsenic Culture, where beer don't count, but bad decisions do. I'm Matt.
I'm Jason.
I'm Drew.
And I got a question for you fellas. What's the worst shit you can think of to age in a barrel?
Shit.
Wait,
Literally aging shit.
it's like consumable or potable or what?
I would say that's like potable.
Okay.
Yeah. Not like toothpaste, but like something that's potable.
To age in a barrel.
Malort.
Malort's probably a good one. Malort's the answer for every episode.
Yeah, for me, it would probably be like raw tomatoes.
Oh, yeah. Like just tomatoes or like just like tomato juice? Like stewed tomatoes.
Yeah, because I can drink a Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
But I will not eat a tomato to save my head.
Yeah.
I like tomatoes. No, I like tomatoes, but I just
okay.
don't know how to be in a barrel. It'd be awful.
You can barrel age anything, motherfucker.
You could try.
Yeah.
What level of char would you use, Matt?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I thought it would be fun to talk about the barrel aging process in general because barrels actually play such a prominent role in everything spirits, but not only spirits, but beyond. And it's crazy to see how prevalent barrels have become in not just like the logistics of things, but actually like making things better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't hear a lot of people using barrels to make things worse.
No.
It's always
You
like
would hope not.
You would hope not. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always for the better.
I used some planters in my backyard for flowers.
Yeah.
Makes them
and
better.
it made the flowers better.
Yeah, they were
You know what
happy.
I mean?
They were happy
Yeah.
My
flowers.
landscaping looks better
Yeah,
because of that.
yeah. But yeah, so we are actually broadcasting in the Bourbon House in Lexington, Kentucky. That's H-O-U-S. This is an Airbnb. This place is fucking awesome. You can check it out on their website. The website's actually partyhouse.com. That's partyhous.com. And they got a few different places. But we are sitting on the concrete bar, drinking a bunch of shit, hanging out, getting ready to play some GoldenEye on Nintendo 64 back here. And our friends at Never Say Die Bourbon have actually given us a bottle to enjoy while we're recording also. So thank you guys, appreciate that. As Jason just fucking hacks up a lung in the background. This is their rye whiskey, Never Say Die Rye. It is 52.5%, 105 proof. And it is tasty. We have been drinking it.
It is good.
We have been drinking it on and off all day, so it's awesome. And we just made some cocktails on our last episode. But to kind of like help with our barrel conversation here, we actually have a few goodies that Jason brought us here. What do we have here, Jason?
So a big thing we hear from craft beer is bourbon barrel aged stouts, bourbon barrel aged beers, right? So the barrel makes a big difference. He talked about that a minute ago. It adds, at very least, in my opinion, depth.
Yeah.
It gives it a little more backbone. It makes it just more fuller flavor.
Sure.
You're going to get some of those tobacco, leather flavors from it, caramelized, whatever.
Yeah. And the bourbon.
Correct.
Yeah.
So from this one, though, we got two different breweries. So we got Voodoo out of Pennsylvania. These are their two newest releases. This purplish gray wax is single barrel aged in Pappy Van Winkle 23-year-old barrels.
I hear those barrels are pretty nice to use.
They won't hurt. I don't think
Hard,
they won't
hard
hurt.
to come by.
Yeah, hard to come by. Then the purple.
Green
Holy
wax.
shit, that's green.
Jesus Christ, dude. I didn't know all this time. Jason was colorblind.
I think this is purple. I'm pretty sure. The green one is actually William Larue Weller from the antique collection
wow.
from
Nice.
Buffalo Trace.
Wow, okay.
I think there was actually less of these bottles than the other one.
Then the Pappy?
Yep.
Did they say how many barrels they got for?
I'm assuming one. Like, I don't think you're going to get more than one.
I couldn't
barrel on
imagine.
that.
So.
Yeah.
How many of these bottles were made?
But they don't give a number. I could ask our friend up there to get a number for us, but he hadn't got back to me. Tommy, I see you. But they sell out immediately. So the Pappy one actually sold out in about 5 minutes.
Wow.
The William Larue Weller sold out in probably 2.
That's crazy.
Quick. It was on Osner, the little app.
And
And
then
then the
we got a
last
Goose
one there
Island.
we have, this is from Goose Island, and it is aged, it's Bourbon County Rare, aged in King of Kentucky barrels.
King of Kentucky. I've heard that. Where have I heard that before?
Our 100th episode, baby.
100th episode.
That's
yeah,
right,
that
that's
just
right.
Came out.
Representing.
I'm hoping it came out by the time we
It
release
is.
this
It's out.
episode.
It's out. It's out today.
Oh,
it's
is it?
good.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So that is out.
Yeah,
so
we're
that's
good.
awesome.
We're
Check
good.
that out. 100 episodes. Fucking rocking and rolling here. So barrels, they are in everything.
Well, while you're talking, we're going to start opening. So we want to
That's
see.
probably a good idea.
We want to see the difference, right? So
Yeah.
can you really tell the difference? Let's just use multiple cups.
I know,
Fuck,
I
got
should not
plenty
have
of
brought
those.
a fucking...
I feel like the barrels have become a commodity too.
100%.
Like,
They really
you know,
have.
almost like
100%.
like a secondary market sort of thing.
You have to
Like,
go through a broker to get them.
It's incredible. I mean, who would have thought of that? You know, however many years ago that
Right.
there would be this secondary market for the barrels,
Right.
So you can age other
Yep.
things in it. It's crazy to me.
So I started doing a deep dive into barrels, and I fucking went on a trip. Like,
I saw your notes.
dude, I've got like 4 or 5 pages of notes here, and I just kept finding more and more shit. It's like one of those things where you like click on something and it takes you to something else. You're like, what the hell is that? Click on something, takes you to something else. What the
It's
hell is that?
extensive.
It's
Your notes,
absolutely insane. So early on in history, where did barrels actually come from? Well, it's kind of hard to say, but general consensus is that the Celtic Gauls, which is like a clan of like Celts, they actually used wooden casks to transport their liquor.
Were the Gauls like French? Because Gaul was France back in
I think they were
back in
from
the old
Lexington.
days.
They had a store.
They got a store. They sell like security
Yeah.
goods
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
For sure.
Yeah.
Big police distributor.
They changed. They changed the spelling of the
They're in
name
the
when they went
Bluegrass
mainstream.
Conspiracy too. If you read that book. This is King Kentucky. Keep us on your left, please.
Everybody that's like watching be like, "What the fuck are the
Yeah.
Gauls in Lexington?"
Unless
They'll
they're
know.
police
They'll
or
know.
firefighters.
Unless
then
recently,
they-
oh yeah, I've been there. Yeah, exactly. So, but their wooden casks weren't like really refined. Like I think it was just like a bunch of wood like patchworked together. You are fucking large pouring the fuck out of this shit.
Well,
but I guess we
who's
got.
gonna drink it?
I guess
Yeah.
we got to open it anyway. I'm just yeah. So
Once it's open.
everybody, we're getting drunk today. But even before that, it's like people used animal skins, which is obvious, you know, back in like fucking caveman times.
The first condoms too, I
Yeah.
think, were animal skins.
Yeah, I still have some of those. I bet it works. I don't know. Clay jars, which were really popular. Amphora is what they were called when they were kind of tapered at the bottom, and they would use them. You mean lanes? They would use them to like stick it in the sand, like if I guess you were like in Egypt or something like that. If you were really rich, you used like a bronze or a metal container, like especially in like the Roman times. But the wooden casks were notable because they were round. And when the Romans fought the Gauls, they found these casks and they were like, that's pretty clever. I think we can adapt that. So they started creating their own wooden casks, but they started putting like the metal like bands around them to hold like staves together. And then they were able to make them leak proof, which is a big problem before.
Huge.
But they could also knock them on their side and they could roll them. So transportation purposes, it ended up being a boon for them. So
So the Romans did that.
the Romans were really credited for making wooden barrels popular, okay? But they did it purely for logistical reasons. What they found out is that when their wine would sit in these barrels for a period of time, the flavor changed and it tasted better. They thought it was magic. They were like, this is fucking great. I don't know why. Let's just keep doing it. So that's what they did.
You're telling me they thought they didn't have any science back then? It was all magic. Is what you're saying?
They did have science back then, actually, but they still
but
didn't
not
know.
good science.
Not
Is-
good, yeah.
Is there a year, like an era where this sort of, in your research, that this
Yes.
happened? 'Cause
It
this-
was when the Gauls were around.
Oh, that helps a lot.
You know what I'm saying.
You have the gall to ask him that? That's
Don't
what I'm
you know
thinking.
about the Gauls? Yeah. So that kind of just really took off from there. It's like, okay,
opened up possibilities.
You age alcohol in these wooden barrels and it gets better. I don't know why. Let's just keep doing it, okay? Over time, obviously, we figured out why, and we kept doing it. But the oak imparts a lot of flavor in there. You can chime in anytime with your paltry fucking little chicken shit list of notes there if you want to. But there are lots of different types of oak, but oak for the most part.
So what's the most common one you use today?
The barrel or the wood? Yeah. So American oak is going to be like probably the most common.
And that's white oak, red oak,
I would
pin
assume
oak.
white oak.
It's white oak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and there's also French oak. There's like
Yeah.
Hungarian oak.
Yeah.
But
You're going to
American.
impart a lot of different flavors to that. So now
Sure.
you look at, now it takes us into like talking bourbon. So you look at like Maker's Mark, they have like the French 46, so it's French staves. Then you have the Maker's Mark series that has all those different staves they'll use.
Right.
I know one of the local places here, RD1, uses French oak in some of their finishes.
Yeah, yeah.
So it really changes it.
It really is.
It's a lot different. It's hard to describe. Each one's a little different, but to me, it's a little sharper and get a little more tannins in there.
It is.
It's a little more like drier too.
French oak is
as
going to be a little more
compared
tannin.
as compared
American
to
oak's going to be a little bit more like vanilla,
Yep.
kind of like sweeter.
I feel like the American oaks, mainly the reason they're using it too, it's probably softer or soft enough to where it can absorb some of the liquid and then bring it back out.
Yeah.
That's why bourbon does so good here in Kentucky, because in those rick houses you get that temperature that's lower and higher in our
swings
climates
and stuff, yeah.
It's just going in and out, which is perfect.
Yeah, and there's actually a European oak which rests somewhere in between French
That
and
was
American.
a great opportunity
also.
for that's what she said, and you just kind of missed it. I'm just saying.
It's so fucking pedestrian.
So looking at these on what we poured here, so left to right, you've got King Kentucky, the rare from Bourbon County, which is Goose Island.
Mm-hmm.
You have the Pappy 23 from Voodoo, and then the William Larue Weller from Voodoo.
Okay, we're gonna drink
What
as
do
we-
you see on the differences of these? There's one thing that stands out huge to me.
This one's fuller than
this one's fuller than
That's true. That's true. But if you move these around, like the Voodoo stouts,
They're not.
they're
bubbly
weighted.
At all.
They're
Oh, really?
weighted almost like feel that. It's feel like how thick, like how heavy that liquid is.
Well, when you
Well,
were
shit, this one's like twice as full, so that
Yeah,
one's
but
gonna be.
when
like-
you were pouring it,
Oh, I got
Yeah.
you.
like as soon as those two came out, I was like, man, that looks
Thick.
It looks thick.
Yeah.
It's got a body on it.
Syrupy, yeah.
Yeah, that's what she said.
So back to we can still try some of these. We can go ahead and try as we're talking. But back to the
I would like
barrels.
to, yeah.
Yeah, some of the barrels. So, with these, if you're looking at bourbon, they have different levels of char. Now, they do a level 1 through 4.
Mm-hmm.
Each distillery, though, they might say, I do a level 3, which would be pretty common. But their level 3 burn time, the amount of time the fire's on the wood inside, might be a little bit different than yours. So like Old Forester might have a little different char 3 than Van Winkle or Buffalo Trace.
Right.
There could be little differences in there.
Yeah, but it's kind of a range, a
It
general
is.
range.
It's a range.
Yeah.
So you look at it. So level 1, this is mostly used for distilling at home. So like if you have, it's 15 seconds of fire on the inside. So barely any char. They said the closest thing to this that we would see today is Michter's, just regular Michter's.
Yeah.
It's not exactly level 1, but it's closest thing to it.
So is that considered toasted?
Well, I think each of these, this is just the initial char
Okay.
of that.
I think toasted is actually a level under 1.
Okay.
I don't know. I actually didn't see that on there.
Yeah.
Good question. But now this is just your standard barrel char. So any bourbon that's going in there is going to have a char on that barrel just to impart the flavors.
Yeah.
Level 2, 30-second fire, so it doubled. Very similar to level 1. It's very sweet, and it's mainly used for like finishing and aging, so mainly finishing, really.
Right, yeah.
Level 3, this is one of the most common levels. This is a 35-second fire, only 5 seconds more. Angel's Envy is probably the number one that uses this one. Mm-hmm. And then level 4, this is 55-second fire. This is what they call alligator char. It's got that nice like skin on the inside. If you see the barrel.
They char it to the point to where it looks like the alligator skin in there, but it makes it more, these ridges become like more porous so it can absorb more wood.
Correct.
Right.
And the idea is that it's the caramelization process. You actually, burning the wood pulls out the sugars and caramelizes them in the wood, and that's what, it imparts a whole bunch of more flavor. Did you see who was credited with inventing that?
I did not. Who was it?
A lot of people think it was Elijah Craig.
Was it an alligator? Oh, sorry.
It was Elijah Craig that taught it to, or it was an alligator that taught it to Elijah
Okay.
Craig. This is just a rumor. Back in the 1700s, he would store moonshine in charred barrels, notice the flavor, and he was like, "Hey, I'm onto something here." Again, he didn't do it on purpose, but it's just kind of like
Well,
saying he happened
most
on it.
bourbon lore, bourbon history is lore, like it's stories.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I will go ahead and give credit for that.
Yeah, and he's local to us, so
Well, it's interesting about the time of the char because like I build furniture in my spare time, and there's a shasugiban, which is a Japanese style of
similar concept. Yeah,
right, but they do that to basically get the carbon like up on the surface so nothing can penetrate it. So like they build their homes on the coast, they will use the shasugiban style because it's like fire resistant, weather resistant, bugs won't eat it.
yeah.
But it's interesting that you put water on it, it just beads right up. But it's interesting that when you let whiskey sit in it, it actually
Absorbs.
Yeah, and then you start getting that temperature contracture in and out of the wood, and it you get this color.
Well, we talked about some of these. What were we talking about? This actually the rye there, the Never Say Die. Part of that was aged at sea, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So you looked at, yeah, it's very cool. And I know, was it Jefferson's? They did some aged at sea. That's right. The theory behind that is all the motion and stuff in there is going to actually make it slosh around more, absorb more. Then you had, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was going to.
Then you have the blackened. That was actually, I think it's Blackened's a brand.
Yeah.
That's one Metallica. They just blasted Metallica music by the barrels and just let it see what it would do.
Vibrate.
Yeah, exactly.
And what's fascinating about all this is it's another approach to alter the way it's aged. So ideally, you're trying to get the liquid medium, whatever's in there, bourbon or whatever, in contact with the wood to transfer some of that flavor compound from the wood into the liquid, and then you have a different product. But by doing it in different ways, you put it out in the ocean, it's jostling around on the ship, moving around. There's sea salt in the air, it makes it a more kind of briny product.
There's pirates probably coming for it.
Yeah, the pirates are going to go fucking piss in it. So then it's going to be like very like urine-y. Yeah. There's all different kinds of ways. The whole sound thing is, it sounds a little fucking
Well, it's same as the sea. Like,
exactly.
If it imparted even a microscope, like it's little bitty piece of something, it's worth it, right? It's unique. I mean, why not? Give
I
it a
agree.
shot,
There's people that do underwater aging, because there's like these huge temperature swings underwater depending where you do it. There's a brand that I saw.
You mentioned that underwater aging, and we're drinking beer, so you talk about Cantillon. There's ones a day last year was aged, like some of the bottles were aged in the bottom of the sea. That's what they did.
Oh, I do remember that. Yeah,
they actually took the algae, the
lambic,
kelp, whatever it was, into the lambic.
That's right.
And made it with it, and then they aged some underneath the sea. Like that's pretty cool.
There is a.
Not sure it did anything. They probably got drunk and dropped them, and then just said, "Oh, we're aging them."
There's either a brand or a type of whiskey called Ogygian or Ogygian.
Getting jiggy with
It's
it.
Ogyigian. It's the weirdest word.
Never heard of it.
But it's Irish whiskey that's aged underwater off the coast of Greece. Like we need to do an episode on that. That sounds badass.
I would agree.
Some people, there's somebody that aged some shit out in space. Ardbeg, they aged a Scotch out in space for 3 years.
I've heard that. I've seen those.
Yeah, I think they were kind of like, They're like, yeah, it just tastes like regular stuff.
Zero gravity, so it just sort of.
So what they found is that like it floating around,
wouldn't go
kind
in
of
and
like,
out.
it just kind of like it's just the molecular.
I mean, I feel like it's temperature, it's motion. Those are the two things that are really going to make a difference in that.
Temperature's a big
right?
one. Contact with the barrel. You get a smaller barrel, and you're going to have more contact because you got less liquid in there. You got a bigger barrel, you're going to have less contact, so you got to age it longer. So that's like something you got to consider.
But there's limitations to that. So you'll see, up and coming distillers like recently in the past 15, 20 years that would age bourbon in smaller barrels thinking the same thing.
Right.
In theory, that works, but it doesn't impart the flavor.
Not all the
Not
time.
to what where expectations are. Right. Like, you look at Wild Turkey, you know what Wild Turkey is.
Yeah.
You know what Makers is. You know what Buffalo Trace is. Like, they could never impart those flavors.
No.
All the shortcuts that people have tried haven't worked yet. Maybe they will one day, but not yet.
Well, there's a lot of distilleries that will use smaller barrels for finishing to get a little extra punch of oak in there or something like that.
Or putting those staves down in there. Like
that's another thing,
And I know
just adding more
RD1,
wood.
they do like a honeycomb method. So it's a stave that has like honeycombs cut in it, like little holes cut all through the stave.
Yeah.
So it gives more surface area to that bourbon as well.
Yeah.
So when you're putting in there instead of one stave, you got 4 sides.
Right.
This one you got 100 sides.
Constant contact with wood at all time.
But they still only char one side of that stave, or do they do
So the staves that I've seen
they
are
put those
actually
in
not
there?
charred, which is oddly enough. So it's just the wood part that they're imparting. So the only part that's like charred is the barrel itself that I've seen.
Gotcha, okay.
Anytime I've seen finishing staves put in, they've been uncharred. Now there might be some that are, but I've never seen them.
Yeah.
I wonder how that would be with like if you just change the wood species.
Oh, they do it all the time.
Yeah, I mean like I know they use maple a lot. Yeah. But like I wonder if you were to put some maple staves and something like that, if that brings out some.
So here's what's interesting about that is that oak is primarily used because it is it tolerates much better, like the bourbon or whatever you put in it. It doesn't
more of a blank canvas.
It's not too strong. You know what I mean? So you can leave it in there longer, and it's not going to overpower. You can leave it in there too long, and it will overpower. But you use something like maple or cherry, and it is so potent that it'll just like it'll fuck it up right away.
So if you were going to do something like that, you'd want to age it for a shorter period of time.
Or in smaller quantities, and then maybe blend it. You could use like the Solera method, which is something else you do in barrel aging, where you kind of constantly blend the different barrels to get like a homogenized
Think of it
product.
like a starter, yeast starter. You always keep a little piece of that going through
It's
there.
really cool. It's like you get a really old bottle or really old barrel of bourbon, and you never drain it completely. Like you'll like use some of the product. There's always a little bit in there, and then you just keep adding younger product to it, and it's always mixed and it's always continuously going. Like an infinity bottle you do at home.
100%.
But with class.
So on these, like, can you tell a difference? That's the key thing, right? Like that's what we want to talk about here from the beer perspective. How can you tell a difference?
How different are the actual barrels?
Yeah. I mean, I can tell a difference myself between the Voodoo Stouts and the Goose Island Stout.
Same.
I don't think there's a
Tell
question
me again
there.
real quick. The left one is...
You got left, that's King Kentucky Goose
Bourbon.
Island Rare.
Okay.
Then you have two, this one's going to be Pappy 23.
In the middle.
And then this one's going to be William Larue Weller.
Gotcha, okay.
So really the test here, in my opinion, is start out with the two Voodoo and see if you tell a difference, and then jump to the King Kentucky one. I've had them all, but still.
Right.
I mean, I think on the mouthfeel for me, the Voodoo Stouts are more thick, more viscous, especially looking at them, swirling them around, and definitely the mouthfeel for me. Taste-wise, I don't know. Do you think you get a difference between the two Voodoo ones, Drew? Just the two, not talking about the King Kentucky one yet.
I do, actually. So the William Larue Weller one,
That would be your far one.
That's this one right here?
Yep.
That's this one right here, yeah. This one tastes a little bit sweeter. Maybe like, I feel like I get a tinge more oak, but the Pappy one, it has some sort of weird kind of, sour is not the right word, but there's something that kind of like, I'm trying to think of a word that would encompass.
Cloying?
Not even cloying, it's just like, we talked about this in a previous episode.
Maybe like a fruit, like a fruit.
You know that feeling, we talked about this before, you know that feeling when you eat too many Skittles?
Yeah, messing with your tongue.
In your mouth, like it kind of like makes your whole mouth just kind of feel like a seized up, like
Coats it,
like
yeah,
cotton
too
ball.
much,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's just like your whole mouth just kind of like scrunches up because it's just kind of like overwhelming. I'm actually on the back end of the Pappy barrel. I'm getting something similar to that. Like, I don't think that's a good thing, but I don't dislike the beer.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm just listening to you. I'll give my opinion in a minute.
What do you You're giving me like winky eyes.
That's what I want. I'll keep you on your toes, baby.
I know.
Keep on your toes. What are you thinking, Drew?
I mean, I lean a little bit toward the William Weller Larue, or the Larue, yeah. I lean a little bit toward that one. I just kind of cleansed my palate with some water. Coffee like punched me right as I was drinking the water.
Okay.
Which was nice. I enjoy that. I'm leaning, like I said, a little bit more toward the Larue.
I agree, which is kind of crazy to think. So in my mind, you think Pappy 23, but I think
it is the more prestigious product technically
in Kentucky. We know.
We know. I mean, honestly, I'm never going to open the bottle of Pappy 23 if I have one. It will be sold on the secondary.
It's not worth
I'm just going to go ahead and get that out there.
Yeah.
If I was forced enough to get a bottle of Pappy 23, it's either on my shelf as a mantelpiece or it's sold.
Yeah.
Because there are things that I would rather buy and drink besides that, like King Kentucky. We just recently opened one. I mean, that's a $1,600, $1,700 bottle of bourbon that we opened that I'm happy to open because I know it's good.
And what's the age on that?
16 years old this year.
Yeah.
If I ever get a bottle of Pappy 23, you know what I'm going to do?
Break it in the parking lot.
I'm going to make you do this. I'm going to give you a Louisville Slugger, and I'm going to throw it at you, and you have to smash it.
I'm just going to
baseball style.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to throw my bat, and I'm going to grab the bottle and take off.
Grab the bottle and run.
And Drew can film it. I'll cut you in.
He's going to quit the show. Yeah. I'm never going to see him again.
I just toss it back like that.
I'm going to be like,
grab
everybody
the bottle,
watch this. It's going to be funny.
Yeah.
He's going to be gone. I'm like, God damn it. That's the most expensive prank I've ever done. It went horribly
I got you,
wrong.
man. I'm thinking I'm going. Let's go, Drew.
Yeah,
on vacation.
Everybody talks about Pappy 23, but people who are in the bourbon know. I mean, we're not going to get a bourbon conversation.
Well, we can. It's not the best bourbon.
Yeah,
it's not the best.
it really
it's not the best
isn't.
bourbon for my taste.
No,
maybe for somebody's.
Yeah,
it's not bad bourbon.
I feel like it gets too smoky and oaky.
100%.
My sweet spot for bourbon is like 12 to maybe 18 years is like where I love it.
I'm probably 7 to 15. I'll give myself a big range, but that's where I'm at. 15 is kind of my tops. Now, I've had some 20 years, like the Pappy 20 or 18, 16 are really good too, but it's at 7 to 15 for me.
Yeah.
But on this one, I think that flavor that you're getting, like the off
Pappy?
flavor, is that age.
Yeah.
I think it's the tannins that are bringing out like the dark fruits that are making it
I think
almost
you could
like
be right. I think
it's
you could
almost
be
like
right.
weird.
Yeah,
it's
I
like
think
a
you could be
weird
right.
prune.
It's almost like a tannic kind of like.
Don't say could be. Just say I think you're right.
And I may have missed it, but the
100% right.
base on these two is the same, right?
The base on these two are the same.
Okay.
Now the Goose Island's different.
Sure, yeah.
It's a different one.
100%, yeah.
So, do you think the barrel made a difference for the better, the worse, or did it matter at all?
I think it did make a difference. I don't know for better or for worse. It's for taste if you're looking at that. If you look at Untapped on these two, so the Pappy 23 is averaging, let's see. It actually doesn't have enough reviews yet. So people are kind of clutching it. It's averaging, on my guesstimate, with the reviews I could see, is a 4.6.
Yeah.
The William Larue Weller is averaging a 4.66 on 53 reviews.
Okay.
So essentially they're the same ratings.
Right.
For me, I would rate the William Larue Weller better.
I would say.
It's going to be younger barrel too.
I think it's
like you're
unanimous.
probably running. I don't know the specs on what year barrel they did. They barrel aged this, I think, for 2 years. Aged 48 months. 48 months for the Pappy. 4 years. 49 months for the William Larue. So yeah, 4 years. Wow. I can't count. Sorry, 2, 4, whatever.
Math is never.
No.
But for me, I mean, I think the William Larue's better of those two. Now, if you throw in the King of Kentucky one, what are y'all thinking on that one?
And this is a completely different product.
It is.
And it's still really good. This is almost like comparing apples to oranges.
It is.
For what we're
They're
our discussion
barrel aged
is.
stouts, but they're different sides of the spectrum.
The body is thinner, but it's actually got a much more like chocolatey, kind of like cocoa butter kind of like taste to it.
Yeah.
I actually like that a lot. I mean, that's fucking amazing.
Make no mistake. I like the Voodoo stouts. I'm just saying, of the two I like better, I prefer the William Larue Weller over the Pappy 23.
I agree. I agree. But when it comes
But
to the
when you
King
bring
of
that one
Kentucky
in.
barrel in the Bourbon County, I mean, I can't taste any King of Kentucky in there. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's a great barrel aged stout.
Yeah, it is.
So I think what we're discussing here is, and we're focusing on like second use barrel aging, which is really popular, and how important that is in the context of whatever your medium is. You know, a lot of people will kind of hang their hat on, we got a Pappy barrel, we got a Larue barrel, or a King of Kentucky barrel,
hype.
whatever. It is hype.
Yeah.
Does that necessarily make a big difference? I don't think so. But if you're talking about primary aging, does using American oak or French oak make a difference? I think it makes a fucking huge difference.
does.
So like, I think it just kind of like, as you go down the spectrum, it's really interesting to see like how much influence the barrel has on the product you have. But at every step along the way, it does have influence, you know? At the very beginning, the barrel will kind of be like front and center, you know, next to, I guess, whatever like the liquid going into it. But as you go down the line, it's like we're secondary aging in here, and it's still super prominent. Like you get like the bourbon notes in there, you get the oakiness in there. You could not get that without putting that into a bourbon barrel.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, and the thing that I think is wild too is that all of the different variables that come into play, right? Because you've got all the different oaks from all the different regions, right?
Yeah.
That's just one part. Then you've got your how long they're charred.
Yeah.
Then you've got how long the bourbon was sitting in that barrel. So there's almost like an infinite number of variables.
Oh, yeah.
To try to get this.
And we're talking now just about bourbon itself.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
But then you go, okay, well now I'm going to put this beer product in it and see what happens.
Then you have
to it.
exponentially more variables, and here's what they are. You need to know, is it a freshly dumped barrel?
Right.
Can you trust the broker that you got it from? I mean, you should.
And that's something you don't even think about.
But I mean,
yeah.
in reality, like, I could lie to you, right? I could tell you it's a Pappy 23 barrel. How you going to know?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, I'm not saying this is the truth. I'm just saying it could happen.
I get it, yeah.
And here's the difference. If I'm the broker, I can sell you a 10-year-old Buffalo Trace barrel for $500, but I could sell you a Pappy 23 barrel for $5,000.
yeah.
I might find it to 23. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, seriously, I might beat the shit out of it a little bit. You know, make it look a little worse, and you know,
Do a
there you
little
go.
magic on there,
a little magic on there. I mean, you could if you have a broker that's not trustworthy. Now, these breweries here, I fully believe these are truly the barrels.
Right.
You know, with Goose Island, they have a huge brand. They have a lot more bandwidth than Voodoo would. So Voodoo's probably doing a single barrel of each of these. Goose Island's probably got I don't know how many barrels of King of Kentucky. Many. Because what they did, this is 2-year aged. So the first year they aged this beer, they aged 1 year in King of Kentucky barrels. Then they emptied the beer out, put them in new King of Kentucky barrels for an additional year. So they had two sets.
That's
Two sets
fucking
of beer?
insane.
Yeah,
Two sets of King of Kentucky barrels.
Well, that's
So you're between...
that's Budweiser money right there. Though.
That's right, yeah.
Budweiser's
Hell
like,
yeah.
hey, listen, we got a bunch of Beechwood
Yeah.
barrels, and
Right.
they're free if you want to use them. They're like,
No thanks.
listen,
you know, I
Daddy,
mean-
I know how deep your pockets are.
But Voodoo's going through, a broker. I don't know. I'm assuming Goose goes through a broker, but I mean...
I think you have to.
But they have a relationship
you're
with
saying-
Brown Foreman.
I see what you're saying,
You see what I'm
yeah.
saying? I
They may just get 'em
know
direct.
their barrels are probably freshly dumped.
Yeah.
I know Voodoo's are too, but
Yeah.
the chance of Goose Island getting a better barrel is better, right? I mean,
Of course.
They just have more
Yeah.
money, more resources, right? I think Voodoo Stouts are fantastic. I think the reason I wanted to compare these were some of the Voodoo Stouts are the classic body and that it's like tobacco, leather, really dark fruit that Goose Island used to do back in the day, like 2013, 2010. So it's the same thing. I think Goose Island's body's thinner, but honestly, if I'm ranking these, it's the best. I mean, that rare.
I didn't
is
say it, and I was
fantastic.
thinking it, and you said
And
it.
I really like these Voodoo, but that rare, that's the best Bourbon County I've had since probably Vanilla Rye in 2014, 2013 when it came out.
Oh, you're talking about OG Vanilla Rare. way
No,
back
well,
in the day.
second. You had OG Vanilla.
No,
Then
not
you have
rare
Vanilla
rye.
Rye.
Vanilla Rye, yeah. You're
I
talking
mean,
about OG
dude,
Vanilla Rye.
this is no adjunct, and I knew there was hype behind this bottle. I actually bought one, and then my friend Jeff sent me one.
Yeah.
So I have two,
This is
thankfully.
fucking-
But
this
this
is
is
fantastic,
fantastic. I mean,
It is. It's not painful to say because I've got a soft spot.
you're not a big Goose Island guy, so they sold out, and I get that.
No, he's right. Like I used to go chase Goose Island every Black Friday when they did that, and then I was just like, I'm done with it. And there's more to it than that. I'm kind of over like the hype of anything.
Sure.
But I've got a soft spot for Voodoo. Like
100%.
I cut my teeth on barrel aged Voodoo Black Magick fucking Pappy 23 barrels, and I was
100%.
like, that introduced me to bourbon barrel beer aging.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was floored.
And that's a whale. Like
Yeah.
that baller today, Voodoo doesn't even have any of those balls left.
Yeah, that was like 10 years, 10, 12 years
maybe
ago,
more.
24
they're,
ounce, 22 ounce
22
bottle.
ounce. They're worth a lot of money. Like if you
God,
see
it
them
was so
pop
good.
up.
So like, I got a soft spot for this. So for me to admit that I actually like the Goose Island better, it kind of hurts me a little bit. It's like picking a favorite kid, but like the one kid that I picked is like my step kid.
Sophie's choice.
I'll never pick any favorites. I like you, Drew.
The redheaded
No, I mean,
stepchild over here.
No, this is no offense to Voodoo. They make great beers. We got a good friend up there, Tommy.
Yeah.
Thank you for all the help you've given
It
me
is
to
a
help get some of these
fantastic
beers.
beer.
Oh, it's
Both
great.
of them are great, yeah.
But that rare, this year's rare with King Kentucky barrels,
That's insane.
that's where it's at. So let's talk one more thing. So let's talk price.
Yeah.
So I broke it down per ounce instead of like per bottle because they're different sizes.
Sure.
So Voodoo is running about $2.50 an ounce, which sounds pretty high, right? They're 12 ounce bottles,
Right.
about $30 a pop, whatever. Goose Island on this one is running $3.77 an ounce.
What does that come out to?
That's MSRP, $60.
$60.
So you
That's-
get,
I mean, that's
you get
original rare.
two of these for 60, so
Two of the
24
Voodoo
ounces,
for-
60.
Yeah.
Or you get one of this for 60
One of
at
the Goose Island.
15.9.
Yeah.
Now, here's the problem. The Goose Island one, which should have a ton more bottles, was only available Black Friday at the Goose Island tap rooms.
Yeah.
Or during Rare Day. You bought a ticket, you got one bottle in your box, which is what our buddy Jeff sent us.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah. Was that you? Did you do that?
It was.
Yeah. Thanks, buddy.
But, I mean, looking at that, so taking that in consideration, do you think, what about the price on these? Would you pay, $30 a bottle for this?
I would.
Would you pay $60
Would I
for
pay
that?
$30 for the Voodoo bottle? Yes. Would I pay $60 for the King of Kentucky Goose Island bottle? Yes, I would.
Knowing what I know
about you?
now,
Yeah.
yeah, 100%.
I would do it for both.
Knowing
I
what
wouldn't
know.
do that every Sunday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I would do that.
Yeah.
If I had the option, I would exercise that right probably every other month or something.
It's like 2A, right? Second A. Well, I'm sort of like you. Like, I have been a Bourbon County buyer for a long time, and I don't go
I've seen yours. You need to open some of yours.
Yeah, I don't have. We've opened some of them. I don't have.
Don't worry, I need to open some.
I don't have the depth or the breadth, but I'm the same. Like if when they come out in the stores, I will always buy a couple bottles just to have them. And, you know, like we'll open it on a whatever day, but knowing how good this is, if I could get my hands on one, I would definitely buy it.
So look at secondary; they're roughly the same. So these Voodoo balls are bringing roughly $100 a bottle is what I would say. This one's running. You can get these for probably
this one you're talking about. For anybody listening, not watching, you're talking about the
so
Goose Island.
the Goose Island, the King Kentucky Rare. It's about 120 to 130 shipped. Okay. That's pretty good. So it's smaller. It's a little bit bigger size than this, and it's $30 more. Yeah. I'd probably say it's worth it at that too, to be honest with you. So for the Voodoo ones, they're about $100 a bottle for a 12-ounce bottle. That's secondary.
Okay.
For the Goose Island, the Rare King Kentucky one, that's about 120 to 130 a bottle. So
I mean, I like them both. I'd probably lean towards the Goose Island in that case. If you're putting a gun to my head and it's like you got to pick one,
it's there.
It is there. I'm gonna go the King of Kentucky Goose Island.
I think they're both worth it though. I mean, secondary. I think they're all worth it. It's always sticky, but when you're selling out like that, I mean, to get to try it, I think it's worth a try, and to be able to try it, you have to pay for it. So get 3 guys, go in with it, and try it that way.
Yeah.
Just like we're doing.
That's right.
Just like we're doing, yeah.
Anything else you want to say on this one?
Man, the whole process from beginning to end, I think it's fascinating. We talked about how much impact barrels have from the very implementation in whatever spirit they're in, all the way down to secondary use, tertiary use, quaternary use, which is the furniture in your fucking house or your barn or whatever. I mean, seriously, it's just like barrels like go and go and go and go and go. I mean, everything that is involved with them, it is positive. So even we were talking about at the beginning, when you're aging your fucking shit in a barrel, it's probably going to turn out pretty good. Not to eat.
I'll let you try it.
No, but I mean, like, I don't know, you can use this fertilizer or something. Night soil? You want to fucking have bourbon barrel aged night soil?
All I heard was that Matt eats shit out of a barrel.
Oh, dude,
you eat pieces of shit for breakfast?
You eat pieces of shit for breakfast?
You have breakfast?
No, this is fucking great. Barrels are great. If you all have access to these beers, seriously, they're all worth it. They're amazing.
Bye.
But yeah, check out any barrel-aged beer from your local convenience store.
So one more thing on this one, if you're looking for these, if you want to buy the Goose Island beers and you live anywhere near Chicago or you have some friends live up there, wait a little bit. Like they come out Black Friday in November.
Right.
Wait till December, January. Probably going to get them about half price. So you won't get rare half price.
They do make
everything else.
Yeah.
They make a shit ton. And even though they send them out to distro, they hold a shit ton back. So hang out.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. If you liked it, then please share. If you didn't, then just keep drinking until you do. Follow us. We are at Arsenic Culture on all the socials, and we will see you on the next one.